I turned 72 last Tuesday. I didn't plan to celebrate. I live in a 400-square-foot studio in East Cleveland, Ohio, the kind with peeling linoleum, a shower that drips brown water, and a window that faces a brick wall. My name is Margaret Maggie O'Connor. I was born in 1953 in Youngstown, raised on meatloaf and Catholic guilt. I married at 19, had 2 kids by 25, buried my husband at 67, and have been scraping by on $1,100 a month in Social Security ever since. My son Brandon lives 40 minutes away in a $750,000 lakefront home in Bay Village, 4 bedrooms, granite counters, a boat dock, the works. He drives a new Lexus every 2 years. His wife Lindsay wears Lululemon like it's a uniform. My grandkids, Ava 14 and Ethan 11, go to private school where tuition costs more than my rent for a year. I always told myself, they earned it. They're smart. I did my part raising them. I never asked for a dime. I thanked Brandon when he handed me $300 cash every month and said, "This is all I can spare, Mom." But last Tuesday, everything changed. Brandon insisted on hosting my birthday. He called 3 weeks early unusual. "Mom, we're doing a family-only dinner. Just us. The kids want to see you." I believed him. Mothers do that. My neighbor Gloria helped me get ready. She lent me a navy cardigan and curled my gray hair. "You look beautiful, Maggie," she said. Then she added quietly, "If anything feels off tonight, don't stay silent. You're worth more than crumbs." I laughed. "It's just dinner, Gloria." The Uber dropped me at Brandon's house at 6:45 p.m. The lawn was manicured. The porch lights glowed like a magazine. Lindsay opened the door in a silk blouse and heels. "Happy birthday, Maggie," she said, air kissing near my cheek. The kids mumbled hi, Grandma from the couch, eyes glued to their iPads. We sat at the dining table, mahogany, seats 12. I was at the end, like always. Brandon poured wine. Lindsay served salmon, conversation, weather, traffic, Ava's lacrosse tournament. Then the doorbell rang. Brandon froze. Lindsay's wine glass trembled. I asked, expecting someone. "No," they said in unison. The door opened. In walked my younger sister, Colleen, 68, sharp as a tack, CEO of a logistics firm in Chicago. She wore a camel coat, carried a gold-wrapped gift. "Surprise," she sang. Brandon went pale. Lindsay excused herself to check the dessert. Colleen sat beside me, squeezed my hand, and said loud enough for the room, "So, Maggie, are you enjoying your $750,000 trust fund?" I blinked. My fork slipped. The room spun. "What trust fund?" Colleen's eyes narrowed. She turned to Brandon. "You didn't tell her?" Brandon opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Colleen pulled out her phone, opened a PDF, and slid it across the table. It was a trust document, dated 5 years ago, signed by my late husband, Patrick O'Connor, the day before his stroke. Irrevocable trust beneficiary, Margaret O'Connor. Monthly distributions, $4,500 for life. Trustee, Brandon P. O'Connor. I stared at the screen. My hands shook. Patrick had been a union electrician. We lived in a 1,200 square feet ranch. Drove a 1998 Taurus. He handled all the money. I signed where he pointed. When he died, Brandon said, "Dad had debts, Mom. We sold the house to cover them. Your pension is all that's left." I believed him. I moved into the studio. I ate canned soup. I sold my mother's pearl earrings to pay rent when Social Security was late. Meanwhile, Brandon bought the lake house, sent the kids to Hawkins School, took Lindsay to Aruba every winter. With my money, Colleen's voice cut like ice. "I was a witness, Brandon. I flew in when Dad signed this. You were supposed to give her $4,500 a month. Where is it?" Brandon stammered. "Liar," Colleen snapped. She dialed a number. "Tom Riley, please. It's Colleen O'Connor. Tell him it's about the Patrick O'Connor Trust." Lindsay returned, face blotchy. I have a migraine, she whispered, and fled again. I finally spoke. My voice was small, but steady. You gave me $300 a month and called it help. You let me sell my wedding ring while you bought a boat. Brandon's eyes darted. Mom, I can explain. No. I stood up. For the first time in 50 years, I didn't care if I was a burden. Colleen hung up. Tom's coming. With all the bank records. Let me take you back. Patrick and I met in 1971. He was 22, I was 19. We married in a VFW hall, honeymooned in Erie, PA. He worked 60-hour weeks. I cleaned houses. We had Brandon in 76, Sarah in 79. Sarah died at 16 leukemia. It broke us. Patrick threw himself into work. I threw myself into Brandon. I sold plasma to pay for his SAT prep. Worked nights at Walmart when he wanted to play travel baseball. When Patrick got sick in 2018, Brandon handled everything, he said. Dad's medical bills wiped us out. I'll take care of you, Mom. I trusted him. I signed papers I didn't read. I moved out of my own home. My studio smelled like old soup and Lysol. Groceries, $180 if I skipped meat. I walked to Aldi with a granny cart, turned the heat to 62 in winter, wore the same 3 sweaters for 5 years. Brandon visited once every 6 weeks. Always in a rush, always with $300 in an envelope. This is tough, Mom. Lindsay's yoga studio isn't cheap. The kids need braces. I'd hug him and say, "You're a good son." Gloria, my neighbor, 70, widow, former nurse, saw through it. One night over tea, she said, "Maggie, you raised that boy with blood and sweat. He lives like a king. You live like a ghost. Open your eyes," I cried. But I still defended him. 3 weeks before my birthday, Brandon called twice in 1 week. He asked, "Have you talked to Aunt Colleen?" He said, "If anyone calls about Dad's estate, ignore them, scammers." Then he showed up unannounced at my apartment. Knocked so hard I thought it was the landlord. He paced my 3x5 kitchen, sweating. "Mom, promise me no one gets your bank info, okay?" I nodded. But that night, the next day, I dug through a shoebox of old papers. Found a letter from Riley and Associates, attorneys at law, addressed to Brandon. Mentioned finalizing the Patrick O'Connor Trust. There was a phone number. I stared at it for 2 hours. Then I called. "Riley Law Group, this is Sharon." "Hi, I'm Margaret O'Connor, Patrick O'Connor's widow. I think there's a trust." Long pause. "Mrs. O'Connor, Tom needs to speak with you urgently." Tom Riley met me at a Panera 2 days later. He laid out bank statements. $4,500 per month withdrawn to Brandon's personal account. 0 paid to me. $680,000 still in the trust. T1 unaccounted for, he said. "Your son forged your signature on distribution waivers. He told us you didn't want the money, preferred simplicity. We have emails." I cried into my napkin, not sad tears. Angry tears. Back at the dinner table, Tom Riley arrived at 8:17 p.m., carrying a folder thick as a phone book. He laid it down. "Brandon, you have 72 hours to return $680,000 to the trust, or we file criminal charges, theft, fraud, elder abuse." Lindsay gasped from the hallway. The kids peeked down the stairs. Brandon tried to negotiate. Colleen shut him down. "You don't negotiate with thieves." I stood up, looked my son in the eye. "You let me go hungry. You let me sell my wedding ring. You let me think I was a burden. Get out of my house." He blinked. "This is my house." "No," I said. "It's mine, paid for with my blood, my tears, and my husband's dying wish." 2 weeks later, Brandon returned Lushabawan Mayan. The lake house went up for sale. I moved into a 2-bedroom condo in Westlake, paid in cash from the trust. $4,500 per month now hits my account like clockwork. Brandon and Lindsay filed for bankruptcy. The kids now go to public school. They don't speak to me. Colleen flies in every month. We drink wine on my patio. She says, "You woke up, Maggie, finally?" Gloria visits with homemade pierogies. She grins. "Told you, no medal for suffering." 6 months later, I bought a new coat, a real bed, a TV bigger than a pizza box. I started a support group for seniors. Don't sign blind. We meet at the library. I tell my story, they tell theirs. Last week, a woman said, "My daughter said Dad left nothing. I found a trust too." I smiled, held her hand. "You're not a burden. You're a lion, and lions roar."